Hey, Sean.
I heard my name. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, sir.
I'm feeling a bit self-conscious. I've also got the YouTube stream going, and it seems to have a picture of my face just sitting like blankly watching
Sing us a song, Sean.
Ooh.
Hello, Sean.
I'm feeling a bit self-conscious. I've also got the
Hi, Sean.
YouTube. Hello, how are you? Have a picture of my face sitting.
Hello. Hello, Sean.
Yeah, I can hear everyone. I think I've got multiple windows open with this, so I'm just wondering which sound I'm getting from live or whether I'm getting sound from recording.
Hello. Please, am I audible?
You are perfectly audible.
Wonderful. Wow, I see John on the call. I see Kilo Alpha Captain Amwa. Welcome. I see Precious. I see Michael. And I see Charles. Welcome to everyone.
Yeah, I can hear everyone.
Yes.
I think I've got multiple windows open with this, so I'm just wondering which sound I'm getting from live or whether I'm getting sound from recording.
Okay, let me check mine as well.
Yeah, you've got the background from the YouTube stream, so you're getting the thing about 30 seconds later.
Okay, I think we are good now. Hello, Richard. Okay, he's still connecting his audio. Seth, welcome to the show. Welcome to everyone. We are expecting the travel and tour community to join us as well. But before they do, we'll still kickstart the conversation. Zoom has made it possible for all of us to meet wherever we are. And I would say we are grateful for that. And I have with me, okay, thank you, Sean. I have with me Sean and then Richard, all airline executives. Wow. Richard is in Ghana, Sean is in somewhere, Zambia, right?
Malawi.
Malawi, oh wow. And Zoom has made it possible for all of us to meet. Today we'll be having a discussion on AfCFTA and aviation, AfCFTA and the aviation industry. Most of us have heard the word AfCFTA, but it's not all of us who understand what AfCFTA is or what AfCFTA means, and to a larger extent, what it means in the aviation industry. We have with us today two of our very own aviation experts who are going to tell us what AfCFTA is and what it really means in the aviation industry. So Sean, just in simple terms, let's know what AfTA is and what it means to us in the industry.
Well, in the most basic terms, I mean, you expand AfTA to stand for the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And, that's like any free trade agreement, it's long and complex, but in basic terms, it is a preferential agreement for African states to trade with each other with less tariffs, with less barriers, and to eventually create a single African market for goods and services. Obviously, aviation is a very important part of any free market for goods and services, because not only is aviation a service in itself, but aviation also is the means by which many goods are moved around, many service personnel move around. And so aviation is both a service covered under the AfCFTA or AfTA, but it is also a tool for the wider implementation of AfTA. So I think aviation has a very significant role to play in that respect. And to put it in a bit more context, AfTA in turn gives aviation in Africa the ability to potentially jumpstart stalled initiatives like the Yamoussoukro Declaration, Yamoussoukro Decision, Single African Air Transport Market, etc., which are initiatives that have been ongoing for coming up on 40 years now, and for the most part have either stalled or moved very slowly. So again, with a free trade in goods and services framework, one hopes that there will be the ability to capitalize on this.
Okay, Sean, so if I get you right, you think that with AfTA, SATAM would be possible?
I think it definitely doesn't hurt. One of the biggest problems with SATAM to date has been that it really has not had a effective enforcement mechanism. I think a lot of states have wanted to take the benefits of SATAM without being reciprocal. And unfortunately, that's led to situations where the enforcement authority, namely AfCAC, has been toothless. They have not been able to resolve disputes, to resolve anti-competitive activity, to basically enforce the rules of fair play. While once you have a more widespread free trade agreement, a more effective, a more professional competition authority and regulations in place, I think that the biggest drawback of SATAM, which has been the inability to enforce reciprocity throughout the continent, would potentially, not saying it will be, but at least a stronger framework would be created to potentially address that.
Okay, Sean, you made mention of the regulatory body of SATAM, that's the AfCAC, not being able to enforce certain things with regards to the competitiveness of countries. Is it possible to give me an example of such a country and why you think that has fallen short?
There are a number of areas where AfCAC has fallen short. I think AfCAC in general has, AfCAC was founded with a lot of pretty good objectives, but unfortunately for AfCAC and for African aviation in general, it's just become yet another talk shop. Today, I mean, if you read through the YD, if you read through SATAM, there is a lot of provisions in there in terms of this is what should be done, this is how it should be done, and so forth. There are also provisions for states to raise objections to other states not following the terms of the YD and of SATAM. And again, the authority for this to ensure that there is a level playing field lies with AfCAC. But to date, if I'm not mistaken, AfCFTA has not initiated, investigated, or issued any investigations or sanctions against anyone. So that would imply that the YD and SATAM are running just fine, but obviously they're not. We know that these are highly flawed processes. These are highly flawed agreements. Certainly they have good intent, but the execution to date has been extremely poor. And I think AfCFTA deserves a lot of the blame for that, because their role has been to promote and ensure that the enforcement of SATAM is there. But today there are a lot of countries, and I'll name names. I mean, look at Kenya, for example. Kenya takes a lot of advantage of SATAM to get traffic rights to other countries in Africa, to get fifth freedom rights in other countries in Africa, to get cargo rights, not just Kenya Airways, but other cargo carriers in Kenya and so forth. But if you try to get traffic rights into Kenya as scheduled, as charter, as anything as such, you will struggle. You will run into unnecessary bureaucracy, and it's not a level playing field in cases like this. And this is where AfCFTA, as the enforcement authority, has not done their job properly. And one can only hope that with AfCFTA coming into place, there will be a strong competition authority within the free trade area, because there has to be. You can't have a free trade area without a good competition regulator, and that will help. Well, will help those who sign up for SATAM to be properly reciprocal about it.
So Sean, if I get your explanation, what you mean is that SATAM does not really work as of now. SATAM is really not working. It's really not doing what it's supposed to do.
I won't say it's not doing what it's supposed to do. I think it's not realized everything it's supposed to do. Certainly, there are a lot of states which have taken on SATAM voluntarily. And a lot of these states have also, had taken on the principles of the YD from the late 1990s, when the Yamoussoukro decision came into play. Ghana pretty much adopted the policies of YD as their policies. And African airlines have never had a problem getting traffic rights in Ghana. In fact, arguably, Ghana has been too generous to many airlines. But that's a discussion for later in the program. But when you look at this, SATAM has definitely not achieved what it was intended to do, nor has it achieved the scope of even what it has. And the few countries which have properly set it up, and I said, let's look at Ghana, for example. Ghana pre-SATAM already had a functioning open skies within the ECOWAS region through the Banjul Accord. Ghana, Nigeria, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Senegal, and all the other Banjul Accord signatories were already giving each other reciprocal access to the markets, in fact, to a higher level for the most part than what even SATAM envisions. Certainly, SATAM gives a framework for them to reach the levels of Banjul Accord, but Banjul Accord agreed to that. So I think these markets, and if you compare where these markets are today, where West African intra-regional travel within West Africa, and certainly we like to grumble about it being people in the region, but within intra-West Africa, traveling between Ghana and Nigeria is a lot easier than traveling between Malawi and Zambia, for example. Malawi to Zambia, I think there's 3 flights a week. Malawi to Mozambique. Mozambique and Malawi share a humongous land border. Mozambique is Malawi's second largest international trading partner, and there are 0 scheduled flights a week between the two countries. And when you look at regions like this is the reality. There is very, very poor connectivity, and I think liberalization and accepting the principles, at least, of liberalization are what helps boost connectivity, and in turn will boost trade between the countries that sign up to it.
Oh, okay. All right. So if I'm going to give a literal explanation of what you just said, SATAM really doesn't exist.
Oh my God, it's that Sean. I know.
Welcome, Richard. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Captain Amwo's hand is up, so let's hear from him. Hello, Captain. Hello, Captain.
He needs to unmute himself.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey,
Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hello. When you're giving PA announcements, you keep talking, but when you're doing a Zoom talk, you keep yourself muted.
Okay. Now, okay, I've unmuted now. I've unmuted. How are you all?
Hey, very good, Captain.
Okay. You see, what I've realized in all my decades in aviation is that the institutions are great, like what Sean said, but sometimes I want to ask whether we have someone at AFTA or AFTA, whatever it is, who really has the knowledge of air transport. I mean, are we just putting political laymen there just to as figureheads, or they really understand the air transport business? Because I've heard so many institutions. I came to meet the Banjul Accord, whether it's even working or not, we don't know. But it has a very nice institution in Abuja or somewhere thereabout, and we have people always heading it. And whether it's really, doing what it's supposed to do, I have no clue. Then we have AfCFTA or the other way around. The question I want to ask is that for it to supervise the SATAM very well, for it to do what it's supposed to do we have people in there who really understand air transport business? That's my question.
Well, Captain, I think, let me attempt to answer this question because I'm currently in the building of AFTA, and I've had some meetings with them this afternoon concerning the same issues. Yes, they do, but of course they are not. Aviation profit. Air transport is very broad, so you may have someone who has pursued air transport and is in a different field, but at the end of the day, not aviation as an aviation. So even by talking to the persons responsible, it appears that air transport in this sense in AFTA, it's a bit of a low priority in this case because they are looking at conflicts, gender, a whole lot of stuff. But again, I was able to get some few persons who are also interested in air transport and by the same idea that, okay, air transport in this sense or in this context can help facilitate ABCD. So I agree with you by and large that, yes, we do not have, or is the interest. Maybe Sean understands this probably, but from what I'm seeing, I think we should have people who actually have the commitment and understands what needs to be done at a certain point in time to take this kind of roles.
But you know what, Richard? I'm going to take a slight different position in that, AFTA cannot be seen as the solution to everything. Everything, the solution has to come from the people who are actually executing it. So that means that the member states, the people who are benefiting from AFTA, the people who are benefiting from SATAM, have to be the ones who recognize the benefits of reciprocity. Because without reciprocal access to markets, without the framework is fine. Laws can be written, guidelines can be written. I mean, we've had competition and open access guidelines in aviation since 1999. The most recent competition regulations are 2017. But at the same time, as I said just before you came on there is no one to enforce these. And I think that is where AFTA doesn't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. AFTA simply has to enforce the regulations that exist and that are not necessarily always being followed, and to ensure that the people who have signed up to it voluntarily, nobody is forcing anyone to join AFTA, nobody's forcing anyone to join SATAM. But if you are signing up to it, if you are saying that I am going to go to take advantage of the benefits of this, you have to be able to give and take. This is SATAM and AFTA are not a buffet. You can't just go to it and take the meat without taking the rice. It's a full meal, and that involves everything in it.
Hello,
Sean. Anyway, yes, you are right, Sean.
Okay, Richard, do you have any other stance, so we can continue with the questioning?
Well, I agree, Sean. No member state has been pursued, to agree on SATAM on AFTA, under duress. So you have agreed. So do not think, you are in, but you are not giving out some of the things that you are supposed to do. On that aspect, I do agree. But again, one thing that we need to understand is some member countries may also think, oh, if we do not agree, we are being tagged as anti this, anti that against Africa. And of course, this happens in our African context. So we should also give room for that as well.
But at the same time, are they not being tagged the same way as being, as being obstructionist, as being everything? I mean, with this entire discussion, we've just named Kenya as a state that is guilty of this. By signing up to it, by taking advantage of it, and they're being tagged the same way. So if it's appearances that you're looking at, you're not really benefiting from appearances. For the most part, though, this stems from partly a lack of understanding of what true reciprocity is. Open skies, is open. That means your neighbor's house is open, but your house is also open. So sometimes you go and take his meat, sometimes he comes and takes your rice.
Exchange of gifts, meat, rice, what have you. Thank you. All right, Sean and Richard, you've granted several interviews in a couple of days, and I think the common thing the two of you have been saying is that protectionist aviation policies would obstruct AfCFTA. I'd like you to expatiate on this a bit. Why you think protectionist aviation policies would obstruct AfCFTA? Richard, you can have a go at
yeah,
it.
Richard, you start first, because once I get going, we only have another 40 minutes.
I mean, Lizzie, you agree with me that practically we have gone through this kind of issues before. And practically, I keep using an example, which literally we were actually involved almost, I think, for 2.5 years when we needed permits to operate into Abidjan. And it took us almost 2.5 years to do that, simply because the CAA thinks granting us access to fly into their territory is going to, is going to cripple some way, somehow, their national carrier. So they have to now use bureaucratic approach to drag their feet. So, of course, even common letters to our CAA, dear Mr. This, dear Director General, they'll respond back to say it is called Director General, but it's called Director General, and all in bid to make sure your permits it's been delayed and their carrier operates, in that stance. So we have seen it. Again, they also believe in the fact that, well, it creates competition, and competition definitely, one has to lose, one has to win, one has to lose. But again, what they are getting, they are not going to get that when competition sets in. So what do they have to do? They have to protect their own, and that is basically that. It has a whole lot of angles that plays with it, but I believe Sean can expatiate on that.
No, certainly. I think, protectionism comes in different forms. And, you've outlined obstructionism as a form of protectionism. And certainly that is one form. That is the most explicit form of it. But protectionism also comes in other ways. I mean, obstructionism being the first, unnecessary bureaucracy is another one. Kenya, for example, to go back to the example I spoke of, if you are looking to apply to Kenya and Kenya wants to delay you, they will simply point at their regulations and saying that the prescribed regulations require you to apply to a public hearing 6 months in minimum in advance of the date you plan to operate and so forth, which is fine if you are looking at a long-term series. But tomorrow you have a charter flight to Kenya, you need to operate next week. And if they don't want you to fly it, they'll say you needed to apply 6 months in advance. And effectively, that is unnecessary bureaucracy, which is taking the form of protectionism. They're allowing Kenyan carriers to operate without allowing the reciprocity. Another example: I used to run a cargo airline in Uganda. If you wanted to fly over Kenya between Uganda and Somalia, they would not give you overflight rights. However, a Kenyan carrier could fly over Kenya between Uganda and Somalia. So a Ugandan carrier would have to fly 45 minutes longer to fly over South Sudan and Ethiopia rather than fly directly, while a Kenyan carrier could have advantage in a market between two other countries simply because of Kenya's protectionism. And these are things which are, which is protectionism through unnecessary bureaucracy. Now, another form of protectionism is in subsidies. And I think that is something which too many African nations, don't actually address, but it is something that in a free trade area needs to be addressed. And specifically in terms of airlines, this is going to come to a head based upon the number of subsidies that are already beginning to flow out to airlines, which are quite simply not sustainable. These are bad business cases. They are run atrociously. And governments seem to think that, COVID has given them a cover to just throw additional money at these loss-making failed enterprises. A good example is one we've seen just in the last week is Rwanda. And Rwanda has just been, well, at least they claim they've been granted fifth freedom rights by Ghana to fly between Accra and New York. Okay. And as part of that application, they have filed their financial statements to the US government. So, with most of these government airlines, they don't actually put out their financial statements publicly. But in this case, we've been lucky enough to get a sight of this. And this is pre-COVID numbers. Let me just look at this, these numbers here for Rwanda. In 2019, they had revenues of $221 million. They had losses before tax of $169 million. I mean, they lose 75 cents for every $1 they sell. If you were running a business like this, yes.
Okay, so I just want to understand the figures. What you're saying is that in 2019, they made a profit of what? $221 million?
No,
they made no profit. They had revenues. They had sales of tickets. Sales of tickets were $221 million. Okay, so they got 221 in. They lost 169 million. So after that 221, on top of that 221, a further 169, totally $390 million was their costs. So for every $1 they took in, they spent 175.
Wow.
And at the end of the year, the government of Rwanda gave them $143 million in subsidy just for that 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah. So now you're looking at that. At the same time, and I'll give you the same year, 2019, Rwanda competed head-to-head with Africa.
Let me cut in again. I just want to understand the figures, okay?
I'll send you the financial report. It's public. Right. It's there. It's filed with the U.S. Department of Transport.
Okay, but what you mean is that they spent $175. That is like say that's the credit, and then they get a debit of $1.
No, well, I'm saying that for every time you buy a ticket for $1 from Rwanda, it costs them $1.75 to actually fly you. They lose 75 cents on every dollar they earn.
So that's like they are giving every passenger $75 freely.
Exactly.
Wow. All right. Thank you.
And that is the point of it, because here's where it applies now to free trade, to SATAM, and to reciprocity. Rwanda is a signatory, in fact, one of the biggest flag wavers for SATAM and for free trade in Africa. Yet they are subsidizing a non-competitive state-owned entity, which is Rwanda, and they have taken advantage of the provisions of SATAM to get free freedom traffic rights between Abuja and Accra. Okay, now between Abuja and Accra, a Ghanaian airline, which was AWA, and a Nigerian airline, which is Air Peace, were operating. Both Air Peace and AWA are private airlines, so there's no access to government $143 million or whatever else. There's not one Tesla, not one Kobo, which is coming to either AWA or Air Peace from respective governments. Okay. Yet, head-to-head, these airlines have to compete on the basis of reciprocity and single air transport market with an airline who is getting basically 75 cents per dollar subsidized for them. And, is that fair? Is that reciprocity? Is that equality? No, it's not. And this is the kind of thing that AfCFTA is I mean, AfCFTA's entire point, if you read through, I think it is Annex 9 or is it Annex 5 of SATA, AfCFTA's entire role as an enforcement authority is to investigate and take enforcement action on this. And the enforcement action on this is they can tell Ghana or Nigeria, you do not have to do this. You do not have to give them traffic rights. If it gets particularly egregious, they can say, we're not going to accept Rwanda as a member of this anymore. They can ground Rwanda. They have the right to do this, but they don't. They don't even start the investigation. They don't even speak out about it. They don't say without naming names that, look, some airlines are distorting the market on this. No, they don't. They just have a seminar where they give a progress report. And this is the problem. They have been toothless, and all of these free trade initiatives have been toothless, and AfCFTA will be another one of this unless there is a strong enforcement mechanism that comes up, not just in aviation, but in everything else, whether it is cocoa products, whether it is rice, whether it is goat meat, whatever it is, there will be distortion of markets unless there is a strong and efficient competition regulator put in place.
Thank you very much, Sean. Richard, do you want to say something about?
No, I think we have had a lengthy discussion with Sean on this, and I believe SATAM has not been implemented officially yet, and this is what this was my argument, that there's going to have a new face of it. So why don't we have it implemented and see whether now the enforcement and the its protection, all those angles, whether it's not going to be implemented. But one, we do agree that it's been 23 years and over. I mean, it's been 23 years now, and those actions have not been taken. But let's go in with a positive mindset that SATAM is going to be implemented, and once it's done, now we are going to monitor and see whether these actions will be taken or not. I think we should have a set on that aspect.
Hello, Richard. If you say SATAM has not been implemented yet, when are we looking
yes.
at? Okay, officially.
No, hold on. Let me clarify something again over here, and that is exactly what SATAM is. SATAM is a brand name. SATAM effectively,
Sean, we have the part
the
one,
official,
part two, part
the official name of SATAM, and I'm reading this from the African Union's document for SATAM. It says Single African Air Transport Market, nice logo and everything on top. But the official name of SATAM is the decision relating to the implementation of the Yamoussoukro Declaration concerning liberalization of access to air transport markets in Africa. So effectively, all SATAM is a new brand name for the same product that in 1988 was the Yamoussoukro Declaration, in 1999 was the Yamoussoukro decision, and the fact that we're still in 20s anything discussing something that started off in 1988 and saying, oh, it's coming soon. I mean, come on, half the people on this call weren't even born in 1988.
That's like 30 years ago. Yeah.
So
32 years
No,
ago.
seriously. There are more African citizens. There are more African citizens who have been born since the YD was initially put in place than those who were born, who are still alive, who were born before that. More Africans today have lived their entire life under the Yamoussoukro Declaration without seeing results. And you said that SATAM is coming soon?
When?
What is soon?
Richard,
how many lifetimes do we have to live through?
Richard, so when? My question is when? If SATAM has not been implemented yet,
it has not been implemented yet. From my checks from AfCFTA, I think in a month or two it will be launched. For my checks, my private checks from AfCFTA, I've discussed with Sean. For my private checks from AfCFTA, it will be implemented either early March or a couple of months from now. So I am saying that yes, it has not been enforced for the past 23 years. Now it's a new brand, probably new administration, because I've seen new recruitments done within, especially on the enforcement aspect. Let's give them the chance. Let's give them a try.
Richard, per what Sean has said,
point in time, and see whether it will be enforced or not.
Hello, Richard. Per what Sean said, SATAM is a rebranded version of the Yamoussoukro decision. Now,
Yes, Lily.
you are telling us
Mhm.
that SATAM has not been implemented officially yet,
Also, you know,
but
good.
we are looking at, say, a month or two from now for
Mhm.
SATAM to be implemented.
Mhm.
What difference would it make from the
Also,
YD? What
so why
difference would it make?
why do you think there is a rebrand? You rebrand because you know probably your old image wasn't good enough. So there has been a rebranded. I mean, it has been rebranded, and of course there are some other aspects which has been added to this whole decision. Let's go in with a positive mindset. I believe if you look at the past and you say it didn't work in the past, so I don't even have confidence in the whole project, then it is, I mean, that approach wouldn't help. That's why I'm saying that let's wait for
Richard,
it
it's
to
not
be
quite that.
implemented. And
You know, the issue is not that it didn't work in the past. It's that you are relying on the same people that failed to implement it in the past in the hope that in the next 2 months, the same people who have failed for 33 years are going to implement it in the next 2 months. And I'm sorry, but, you know, that's just stupid. Anyone who believes that is, you know, I've got a bridge to sell you somewhere. You can't really believe that.
Anyways, thank you very much for such a spirited discussion.
Sean,
Welcome to everyone. Today we have Sean and then Richard taking us through AfCFTA and its impact on the aviation industry. I've seen that some travel agents have joined us, and then airline executives as well. Please, if you have any questions, you can kindly raise your hand or put it in the chat box. Also,
Let's read mine. I've asked you a question. Read it for Sean.
all right, Sean, from Andrew, he's saying we seem to have brilliant documents and accord for so many aviation-related developments. Yet, when the individual government disagree with the accord, then the whole accord is shelved and another accord is constructed. Do we need Europeans to write the accord and implement them for the seriousness of the various available accords? Everything is about accord. So, Sean.
No, and this is exactly the point I've been making, that you can write anything on a piece of paper, but unless there is an enforcement mechanism, it's just worth the piece of paper. It's, you know, you can write a contract, and if one side of the contract doesn't want to live up to it, you've got to have an enforcement mechanism, which is to take them to court or whatever else. You know, you can write a check. If there's no bank to cash that check, the check is a piece of paper. So, you know, any of these pieces of paper, any of these agreements, anything as such has no teeth, has no real value without the enforcement mechanism. And it's not as though SATAM or, you know, or AfCFTA or whatever does not have an enforcement mechanism. The enforcement mechanism exists. If you read through it, it exists. It's called AfCFTA. AfCFTA was set up with that purpose, in fact. It was to be the African, you know, the CAA of CAAs, so to speak. And what has it done in over 20 plus years? Nothing. And as a result, you are, well, I won't say nothing. I'll give AfCFTA credit that on the technical front, they've actually set good standards, which most African states have signed up to. So AfCFTA is not totally useless. But in terms of its primary objective, which is to serve as a regulator for a liberalized African air transport system, it has failed miserably. It has tools at its disposal which it doesn't use. It has enforcement mechanisms which it doesn't use. It has educational mandates, not just tools, but mandates, where it is supposed to increase awareness of this. It doesn't do this. It simply, well, whatever it does, I don't quite know what it does. So I can't even say it simply does this. It just simply exists.
Okay. So SATAM simply exists. Richard, we are all on this platform today, and we are going to take your word for it that, give or take, in a month or two, SATAM is going to be implemented, and we are going to see action. You want us to think positively. Okay,
I will make this statement. In 2005 May, I was part of the Ghana delegation to the African Union Air Transport Summit in Sun City, South Africa, to discuss the implementation of the Yamoussoukro decision. And in the plenary session in May 2005, we took a resolution that by the end of the year, we will have YD fully implemented.
Implemented.
And
That
until
was
now,
by the end of 2005. Congratulations to us.
and up till now, we are still waiting for the implementation of.
I rest my case.
I understand, Sean. But anyways, as Africans, we always believe in the positive
I am not
nature
the
of
prophet
things.
of doom.
So,
Yes.
okay, from Ahmed, he's asking, he wants to understand well, will AfTA only be recognized if we have free and open skies? Will AfTA only be recognized if we have free and open skies? Sean, Richard, who wants to have a go at it first?
I think I started, discussing some of this in my lead-in in what, why is AfTA relevant to aviation? So I'll go through some of this and expand on it here.
Okay.
AfTA is essentially intended to be a free market for goods and services. Not only is aviation a service, and obviously a vital service in there, but aviation is the tool by which many goods are moved within the free trade area, as well as the way that many service providers are able to circulate within the free trade area. So, relative to something like cocoa production, for example, both aviation and cocoa production are covered by the free trade area, but obviously, a cocoa bean can't take you to Nairobi. And I think that's why aviation is very critical to the success of AfTA. If there is a free market to export and import, but not a free market for the cargo shipper who still sets high prices or is government overly regulated or whatever else to move your export from from Ghana to Kenya, for example, your product is not going to get there. And that's why aviation is so critical. And if you don't get aviation right in AfTA, you're effectively going to doom the entire free trade association.
Okay. So they need to get things right in aviation.
Well, aviation is the tool for circulation throughout the continent. And if you don't get that right, any enhanced circulation is going to be obstructed.
So if they don't get aviation right, then really AfTA would not work as it should be.
Absolutely. And as I said, the track record of the African Union in creating this, any sort of open skies, free markets has been woeful. I mean, they're very good at coming up with ideas. And truly, if you read through things like the YD, if you read through SATAM, if you read through many of these AU documents, they are world-class. They are extremely well-written policy papers. They are extremely well thought out. These are excellent frameworks from which the end users and from which the member states must draw inspiration to actually execute them. But the AU cannot sit in Addis Ababa in its headquarters, or AfCA cannot sit in Dakar and force people on the ground to do it. People must understand, people must accept that the benefits of liberalization, the benefits of reciprocity are benefits and not that I will lose if someone else gains. You may lose in some area, you may get the meat, but someone else gets the rice.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sean. Richard, your take on it. Hello, Richard.
No, I believe perfectly. And I agree perfectly. And my point has always been that aviation is an enabler for AfTA success. So at the end of the day, if you do not have aviation and if you do not have this kind of interconnectivity and intra-African connectivity that does not suggest that the roads and the rails and the other forms of transportation will not exist for AfTA implementation. But of course, aviation plays vital role. We have, areas that you cannot have roads there, you cannot have whatever there, but aviation will play that perfect role for you. And not only, quite apart from that, now we are even having drones as part of the equation to, freight drones coming up, and this is all part of aviation. It is important for it to help its success for it to be implemented.
No,
Okay.
and you know what? It's something which I've said before as well, that if you are looking to kickstart transportation, if you're looking to kickstart circulation, a 3-kilometer road will get you nowhere, but a 3-kilometer runway opens you up to the world. And I think that's where people need to really look in terms of what benefits aviation can bring to free trade, what benefits aviation can bring to better connectivity within the continent as a whole.
Aviation.
Okay, so in all this, aviation rules, they need to work on the aviation industry in order, if they really want SATAM to work. Because in terms of transportation, you just, in case you're transporting something from even here to Benin, it's just like an hour or two with ASCAI. But if you want to use the road network, then it means that it will be the whole day. So we have to encourage all the leaders in AfTA to look at the aviation industry and try and work on the things that they are supposed to work on to make this AfTA dream successful. Okay, please, any questions from the audience? We have Richard and Sean on call, and they are talking about AfTA and aviation. Please, our travel agents, do you have any questions? You are the stakeholders in all this. What are the benefits? Okay, Sean, so let me just ask you, with regards to AfTA and aviation, what are the benefits for the stakeholders? The stakeholders, what do they have to gain from this initiative?
Well, the benefits are very obvious. You get access to many more markets. If you're from, most African countries are actually small, if not in necessarily physical size, but in terms of their home market. If you look at the number of passengers flying from Ghana, totally Ghana's aviation traffic in 2019 was 3 million passengers, give or take. You compare that to somewhere like the United States, which we're talking in the billions almost. And so obviously, there's a fractional size. But when you take the entire African continent, that gives access of Ghanaian airlines to access the entire continent. Look at what Ethiopian has done. Ethiopia is a strong proponent of that because Ethiopia has successfully been able to become a Pan-African airline, essentially, whether that's under the Ethiopian brand or through subsidiaries or anything else. And SATAM and the free trade agreement effectively allow people in different industries as well to do that. If you are a Ghanaian manufacturer of shoes today, and you grow to a certain point where, well, once you've got a shoe for every Ghanaian, okay, you've done 30 million shoes. I now need to export these shoes. I now need to build factories elsewhere to do this. And usually there has been bureaucracy, there's been red tape, there's been the inability to export or import or whatever else. But this now gives you access to the market. You can make your shoes in Tema and fly them out from Accra into Lusaka and sell them in the Zambian market by next week, rather than the current scenario where you may be paying customs duties and who is going to regulate the standards of the shoes and this and that and everything else. Or maybe there's a government-owned shoe manufacturer in Zambia who doesn't allow other shoes to be sold. Precisely. So It is nothing to do just with aviation, but aviation stands obviously, because of aviation's nature, because aviation inherently links countries anyway, it stands to be one of the first beneficiaries of this. If there is no link to fly your shoes from Accra to Zambia, your shoes are not going to reach that market anyway. The transport links have to be there. And so that's where aviation really stands to benefit. And airlines who are able to be agile, who are able to, and not just airlines, let's even look at it in terms of countries, because countries which adopt reciprocity, countries which make themselves attractive as airports, as gateways, like Ghana has done. Ghana has effectively already, enforced most of the key provisions of SATAM and Open Skies and YD and Banjul Accord. So Ghana is a good example of what could happen. Why is Rwanda asking to fly from Accra to New York? Why did SAA fly from Accra to Washington? Why does Accra have as many airlines flying into Ghana as a much bigger country in Nigeria has at Lagos Airport? There are more international airlines flying to Accra than are flying to Lagos. And that tells you that obviously something has done right. And what was done right was the government of Ghana took a policy from the late 1990s that there would be a liberalized access to Ghanaian markets. And as a result, not only has Ghana benefited from increased service from foreign airlines, but on the flip side, it has allowed private sector airlines in Ghana, whether that is AWA today, whether that's been Stabo in the past, whether it's even been failed airlines like Fly 540, they have been encouraged enough to try in Ghana, which is not the case. If you go to Senegal, private airlines don't really have a chance there because the government keeps setting up new national carriers every 5 years. And it seriously causes problems. If you look at places, many of the airports in Nigeria, it's very difficult to get permits to operate over there in Nigeria as an international carrier, as a foreign investor, and it discourages people from wanting to get involved with it. And Ghana was a willingness to be a leader, to be one of the early adopters, is beginning to pay dividends for Ghana. And I think Ghana is a good example of what other small African countries could achieve as well if they were willing to embrace liberalization. But liberalization means reciprocal access. And that means while you may not be you may not become the next aviation gateway, you could perhaps become the next shoe manufacturing capital of Africa or so forth. So you have to look at where your skills are, where your resources are, and take advantage of what your benefits are and accept that, exactly, and use the reciprocity that you grant to someone else to gain advantage when you gain access to their markets. But for that to happen, there must be reciprocity and fair competition. And that holds true not just in aviation, but across every sector.
Okay, thank you very much, Sean.
I think, Lizzie, there's a hand up. Wolanyo.
Yes, I was going to call you. Hello, Wolanyo. Hello, Wolanyo. Thank
Hi,
you.
Elizabeth.
Yes.
Yes, good evening and good evening to everybody. I mean, thank you so much for putting up this topic. And Sean is always a reservoir of knowledge when it comes to our industry. And it's always interesting listening to him. What I would like to say is, having seen and read just a few things about AfCFTA over this period, I think this is a renewed energy to actually push the various authorities to open up the skies. Even though we have failed over the period, I think and I hope that this time the level of energy, especially from the Director General of AfCFTA, it's something that we need to appreciate, and also to look at the future and say, yes, this is indeed going to happen. So I want Sean to give us a little bit of the space in his mind, not to totally give up because Yamoussoukro Chrome has not worked. I think that from the new direction, we should get something working with the presence of AfCFTA in Accra, actually. That's my contribution.
Thank you.
I fully agree. And while I'm saying that, it's not as though that YD or SATAM have failed. By no means. As I said, the framework that they have created is excellent, but they have not enforced it. And this is where you run the risk of letting it fail. Because here's where we go back to the whole reciprocity story. If you are giving access to your market, if we are allowing the Zambian shoes, for example, to be imported to Ghana, but Zambia is not allowing Ghanaian chocolate to go to Zambia, at the end of the day, Ghana is going to be stuck with lots of cocoa, which they cannot export, and lots of cheap Zambian shoes, which are being allowed in without any tariffs or so forth. As a result, the Ghanaian economy will collapse because everything you're producing is not being able to be exported, and everything you are buying, you're going to have to send that money abroad. So reciprocity is such a key for free trade. And it's the same thing in aviation. people don't think twice about imposing customs duties when you're importing goods from abroad. But they object when when foreign airlines are blocked from coming in or similar to that. And I think that's a very wrong approach to take. If there is reciprocity, fair trade exists with reciprocity. All you are doing is increasing your potential market, whether that's for buying or for selling. And I think that AfTA is a very good initiative in that respect. But AfTA is not going to be the solution to everything. These are just frameworks. The solution has to come from the signatory states, from the actual people on the ground doing the trading, from the people who are living it day to day. The AfTA DG is great in terms of creating the awareness, in terms of creating the momentum, but he is not the person who can, who flies the Rwanda plane and so forth. He is the person who simply sets the framework and encourages people to do their jobs in terms of creating a proper framework and an enforcement mechanism to ensure that the framework is followed.
It's followed through. All right, thank you, Sean. We have just a few minutes to wrap up. Hello, Richard. Richard.
Hello, Lizzie. Yes, I mean, I think Walanjo, I agree with Walanjo, and I mean, Sean has to bear with. Sean has to bear with.
After 30-something years.
Yes. I do believe with the energy which has come in, I mean, from the side of AfTA will not sit aloof to fail at this time. And there is no reason and there is no point in. At this point, we believe that, and I believe strongly, this time is going to work because new administration, new faces, and new generation. Why we cannot afford SATAM to fail at this time, and it is going to be the driving force moving forward. I believe strongly.
Okay, so Richard, you made mention of new administration, new blood, new whatever. But if all those new things are coming from the old ones, don't you think that it will still be a white elephant?
Is it your mother and you will never be the same? You have some creatures, but you'll never be the same.
Hello, Walanyo, your hand is up again.
Yes, Lizzie, that's an interesting question, by the way. But I think that there is a way forward. I believe strongly that looking at what is happening now, yes, the spaces are going to open up for us. I want to invite Sean to, at least at this point, join forces with some authorities in this country to be able to come out with maybe an advocacy group that can be able to push and advise on the way forward for us to achieve these things. I think that he has the power and he can be able to join forces together so that we can achieve these results. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to benefit the world and benefit Africa.
Yeah. I truly love your idea.
Voila.
So Sean,
my comment on this is you follow my social media. If you think that for the last, how many months have I been out? November, December, January.
I know a month
for the
now,
last
but
4
Sean,
months, has a week gone by without me actually saying there should be better liberalization, there should be less government involvement, there should be better aviation regulation in Africa. It is my passion, so to speak. And
Sean, what Walanyo is saying, Walanyo is saying now is that yes, you'll be speaking about all those liberalization, protectionist and all, but now he's advising that you form an advocacy group with people of like-minded, with like-minded people, so that they can push the agenda. So it shouldn't be just talk, just a talk shop, but there has to be action.
But you see, Lizzie, here's my comment, and this is why I think that advocacy groups in a situation like this are not going to be effective. Because it is not as though you are advocating for something. You are not saying that we need to have SATAM. We are saying we already have SATAM. Just do your damn job and enforce it. And
Okay.
forcing people to do their job should not require an advocacy group. It should require people to just do their jobs. And that is where the problem is. If you keep relying on the same people to do their jobs who have not done their jobs for the last 25 years, why do you think it's going to change?
All right. Thank you. Okay. So Sean sent me the document for Rwanda, and I'm looking at the revenue in 2019, which he made mention, that's the $221 million. And then the direct cost. So if I look at the direct cost, it means cost of what they did, right?
No,
Yeah,
the direct costs are basically their fuel costs, their landing fees, and everything else. So they lost $100 million on direct costs alone. On top of that, then they had to pay employee expenses and salaries and rent and sales commissions and so forth. So they lost another $38 million on that. Then they had to pay interest on their loans and everything else, which was another $31 million on top of that, to a total amount of $169 million in loss. And this is available, by the way. If people want to see this, this is available on the US DOT website. If you go to the US DOT website and search for DOT-OST-2017, so docket number 0049/0006, the most recent number in there.
Okay, so
or send me a message, I'll send it to you. I've downloaded it.
At the end of the day, they made a loss of 26,248,705.
After, read the line above that, after taking $143 million subsidy from the government.
Yeah, grant income 143 years.
So they actually lost 169 million. They took 143 million from the government, and on top of taking that subsidy, they still lost $26 million. How this can be considered to be a going concern, how this can be any sort of reciprocity, how this airline is being allowed to operate between Ghana and Nigeria in competition with Ghanaian and Nigerian private sector carriers is a true travesty of justice. And if AfCFTA or any regulator was doing their job right, they would have investigated and shut something down.
And shut it down. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sean. Wow. I'm just looking at the document. So I'm asking myself, why do we set up airlines? If at the end of the day, there's going to be such losses, why do we need to set up national carriers? Someone asked the question. Someone wanted to ask a question. I think Gideon wanted to ask a question.
If we are going into why national carriers, we need to have another discussion with a full 1 hour on a different day. You start with 2 minutes left in the thing. You start asking, why should you set up national carriers, please?
Anyways, okay, so we have another question. Who are these people in charge of the setup? Are they aviation people or government people? Then
that's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah. Richard, go ahead. Yeah.
No, so African Civil Aviation Commission is the executive body of SATAM. So the aviation people, the aviation people. So they regulate, civil aviation, and the like. So they are aviation people, not that they are not aviation people. They are aviation people, and they know what they need to do. Yeah.
All right then. Thank you.
But again, I believe dealing with government is not that easy. Dealing with government is not that easy. So.
Okay, another question. Who are the implementers? Who are
the answer is actually the same. The enforcement authority, the executing authority, I believe, is the exact words out there. They are charged with implementing, with regulating, and so forth, is AfCFTA, the African Civil Aviation Commission, based in Dakar, and which actually has a number of Ghanaians in leadership, but has been ineffective, unfortunately.
Thank you very much, Sean. And to Gideon, please, Sean says that we need to have another session with regards to the national carrier. So we are hopeful to engage him another time again.
You can have it on national carriers anywhere in the world, and I will bring in more details for you.
I believe he's talking about national carrier. He's talking about national carrier elsewhere.
Exactly. So give me time to do my preparation. I'll bring you more facts and figures.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all who joined this session today. We are wrapping up, and I'd like to give our guest a chance, just 2 minutes, to wrap up, wrap up with all that we have discussed today. So, Richard, you can have the first go, and then.
Well,
Sean.
I know Sean needs more time, but I know Sean needs more time. But my point is, moving forward, I believe we are supposed to be ambassadors, especially for our air transport side as aviators. So let's promote, SATAM positively. Yes, criticisms are there, but of course, very constructive. Let's positively, promote it and encourage our leaders that, look, we are there to support, we are there to guide, and we are there to assist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Sean, before you give your concluding remarks, someone came into my DM and the person wanted to find out if you could share your views on what is trending with regards to Africa World Airlines in terms of it going bankrupt because the parent company had gone bankrupt. Just briefly, so that.
Okay, very briefly. There's been mixed media reports, but I think the media is beginning to get the accurate situation now. One minority shareholder of AWA, which is HNA Group, they're not a majority shareholder, they're not a controlling shareholder, they are one of the minority shareholders, has gone into bankruptcy protection in China. That doesn't affect AWA. They may need to sell their ownership stake in AWA, but AWA in its own right has been profitable since 2014. AWA in its own right has, it's not like AWA gets money from China every month to pay the bills, unlike Rwanda and some other failing carriers. AWA there's absolutely no danger of AWA even hiccuping. The only thing you might see is that the ownership stake in one of AWA's shareholders may have changed from one entity to another. So from a AWA employee standpoint, from an AWA customer standpoint, absolutely zero to even note, other than the fact that one of the shareholders has entered protection in China.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. Very briefly done. Now, your concluding remarks.
My concluding remarks are actually going to be very brief because I've said everything that really needs to be said. What I really need to stress, though, is that for any of these free trade agreements, for any of these single markets, whether that's air transport, whether it's in any other industry, to be effective, there has to be a level playing field. For a level playing field, you must have a regulator. You can't play football without a referee, and you must be able to follow all the rules, not just pick and choose. For that to be, when that is able to be enforced properly by an enforcement authority, whether that's AfCFTA or the competition commission that comes out of the free trade agreement, or whoever decides to step up and take that responsibility, you will truly see liberalization of the African market and the consequent benefits of the explosion of air traffic, which will come as a result. That's all.
Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you very much, Richard. And thanks to all who joined the program today. We all know now that aviation will play a very important role in the success of AfCFTA. Let's all come together. Let's make this possible. We are the game changers, as Richard said, and we are going to keep a positive mindset towards this dream. Hopefully by the 2063, we would have really seen something positive. 2063 should be like around 100 years or something. But I
2063.
Was there something positive coming out of this dream? Thank you all. And this is the Aviator Diaries, organized by GH-Aviation. Thank you for being with us throughout. See you. Thanks, Sean. I'll get in touch privately. Richard, I'll get in touch privately. And
all right, thank you.
Thanks for joining the show and contributing. From Seth Konedu, he says, Mr. Sean, great insight. Thank you, Gideon. Thank you, Precious. Rexford, merci beaucoup. Emma, thank you. And see you all another time. Bye-bye.